Good morning. How are y'all doing? Everybody full? Yes. Good, good, good. Well, thank you, Jim, for that introduction, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Anna Mallette. I work with the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts. We're a state agency here in Austin, so we work just right down the road, and we do a number of things for the state. But one of the new things that we're doing are we're administering a new program called Texas Able. And I understand Jim asked me to be here today to kind of tell you guys a little bit about it. I made a presentation a couple of months back at the National Federation of the Blind Texas conference, and I think there were a couple of folks from this organization that were there, and they heard me speak, and they asked for me to come and tell you guys just a little bit about ABLE. How many of you have heard about ABLE? Anybody? A couple of you? Very good. Very good. Very, very cool. Can y'all hear me okay? Good. So what do I plan on doing this morning? It's number one, I'm trying not to bore you to death, but I wanted to tell you just a little bit about ABLE, kind of where it came from, what it means for you, how it can help you, or maybe someone that you know. I'll give you just a little highlight of what Texas ABLE is, and talk to you about opening a savings account here within the state. And I'll leave you with some resources, and then we can do some Q&A there at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. Before I begin, I have to tell whether I'm on the phone talking to folks or whether I'm in a group talking to a group like this today, I have to let you know that I am here today giving you information on the program, right? So this is a savings program, and some of the things that we'll talk about are different ways to save and different investment options. That's important. So there are rules around that. And so this slide just basically says, I am not a financial advisor, I am not a tax attorney, so I'm not going to be able to answer some of those questions. So I just always like to let people know that right up front. Oh, you're fine. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about ABLE. What is ABLE? ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience, okay? It is a savings program. It was actually named a piece of legislation that was passed back in 2014 under the Obama administration, so at the federal level. And what it did was it created a savings account option for individuals with disabilities. And let me tell you how it came about. There was a man by the name of Stephen Beck, and he was a parent of a child with disabilities, okay? And he actually lobbied to have this program created. And so the way it came about was he was sitting around a kitchen table one night with some other parents that had kids with special needs, young, small children. And they were talking about saving long-term strategies for their kids. How are we going to save long-term and still keep important benefits such as SSI, SSDI, Medicaid? How in the world are we going to save when we've got these asset limitations, right? Because prior to ABLE, those individuals could only have $2,000 in resources before they would be disqualified for SSI or Medicaid, right? Y'all following me? Very good, very good. So ABLE, what it did was they lobbied to have this legislation passed, and it created a new way to saving for disability-related expenses, and I'll talk to you about what that means in just a minute, and what we call a taxed advantage account, okay? So that it's just a new way to save. All the money in an ABLE account is not countable resources for SSI and Medicaid determination purposes. That's a big deal. So now they can save above and beyond that above and beyond that $2,000 resource limit and still keep eligibility for those benefits, okay? One of the other things that it did was it authorized the states to begin opening the program. So it created the savings option, and then that piece of legislation said the only way individuals can open an ABLE account is through a state. And so we have an ABLE program here in Texas that launched back in May of 2018. Everybody, y'all with me so far? Good, good. So we created our program in May of 2018. It's an online enrollment. I'm going to show you all those details in just a minute. Again, the Comptroller's office, we do a number of things within our office. We also manage the state college savings plans. They're called 529 plans, saving for higher education. So in addition to the ABLE program, we do also administer those college savings plans. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what ABLE is. We're saying they're savings accounts. ABLE is a savings account, but it is also an investment account. That's important to know. So you're able, it works similar to a bank or a checking account. The thing with ABLE is you cannot walk into a Chase or a Wells Fargo or a bank or credit union and say, I'd like to open this ABLE account. There's no physical building to go to open that, right? You have to open it through the state. And so it's a tax-advantaged savings account. And these are your own private funds, right? So these are your funds that you're putting into this ABLE account. And it's to supplement funds that you already may be receiving through SSI or SSDI and other insurance and that kind of stuff. How many of you, show of hands, receive SSDI? Good amount. Very good. And so you receive Medicare with that. Many of you receive Medicare with that? Okay. How about SSI? All right. Good show of hands to receive SSI. Very good. Very good. One thing to know is you can only have one ABLE account. As there are other states that have ABLE accounts, you can't have an ABLE account in Virginia and have one in Texas as well. That's important to know. You can also use these with other savings tools. There's things called special needs trusts, so you could certainly use an ABLE account with that as well. All right, so let's talk about who can benefit. Why did they create ABLE? We talked about Stephen Beck and saving long term. Really, there's kind of two categories of reasons to use an ABLE account, right? Number one was Stephen Beck. He wanted to save long term for his child with disabilities. And be able to, save for that child when he's no longer around, and knowing that she was taken care of. And then the second is an empowerment tool. So prior to ABLE, again, $2,000 in resources is all you could have in a bank account before you would lose your eligibility. Empowerment, being able to save like you have not been able to save before, way above and beyond those asset limits. And so it's an empowerment tool. It's a game changer, on the way that individuals with disabilities and their families can save. All right. So having an ABLE account, how are you eligible for an ABLE account? Number one, here in Texas, you have to be a Texas resident, okay? Your disability has to have occurred before the age of 26. That's part of that federal law that was passed, one of those eligibility requirements. And then there's 3 other ways you can qualify. So if you currently receive or you're entitled to receive SSI or SSDI, you meet that age requirement and that Texas residency, you can certainly open an ABLE account. If not, you can have a physician's diagnosis, or you can meet what's called the compassionate allowances condition. It's basically a condition that Social Security Administration, they have a list of different illnesses and conditions that that would qualify someone to be eligible for an ABLE account. All right, who can open an ABLE account? 2 different ways to do it. Individual with a disability, they meet those eligibility requirements. They're 18 years of age. They can certainly open an ABLE account and manage it on their own, begin contributing, taking money out of that account. If not, they can have, for example, in the case of Stephen Beck, he would be an authorized legal representative. So it would be a parent, a guardian, or what they call a fiduciary, someone else like a power of attorney to manage it for that individual if they're not able to do it for themselves, if it's a minor or they're not able to do it. Make sense? All right. So how much can you put in this ABLE account? So with an ABLE account, you can save up to $15,000 a year in one taxable year in your ABLE account, right? It's a minimum of $50. So you can save anything from $50 up to $15,000 a year in an ABLE account. It's a big deal. And still keep those benefits, okay? Because remember, all this time, you've been told we can't save. We have to give money to grandpa. We have to hide it in the safe. We have to hide it under the mattress. Now you're able to save, okay? If you're a working individual with an ABLE account and you are not contributing to a retirement plan, I know this is a lot of talk for this early in the morning, but I understand from Jim that many of you contribute to a 403B. If you contribute to that, you unfortunately will not be able to take advantage of the second option, which is called the able to work. So basically what it's saying is, if you're working, you're not contributing to that 403B or your 401k, you can save above and beyond that $15,000 up to an additional $12,000 and in that ABLE account. Does that make sense? I didn't make up the law. I'm just giving you the information. It's a lot of information, but basically it allows individuals who are working to be able to save more. And then the most you can put in an ABLE account is $500,000 in one taxable year. So it's a lot of money. All right, SSI. For those of you who have SSI, this is important to know. You can save at $15,000 a year up to $100,000 in your ABLE account without losing eligibility for those benefits. Very, very important. That $100,000 is an important threshold. Okay? Now, this is important too. Just because you're saving money in your ABLE account, it still counts as earned income for SSI and SSDI determination purposes. That's important. So, you know, you're still held to those requirements through SSA. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. So the money that goes in your account is still earned, like you have certain limitations and guidelines as far as how much money you can make to still keep those benefits. Does that make sense? So those monies, just because you're putting it into your ABLE account, it still can't, you still have to adhere to those limitations. So all of this information also that I'm talking about, it's a lot for the morning. All this information is on our website. I'm going to give you information at the end to customer service team. You guys can call. You can always call me, and I'm happy to talk with you about it because it's a lot of information to understand. But the main thing I want you to know is those individuals who receive SSI, you can save up to $100,000. That's the most important thing. Now, important also, even though you can save up to that $100,000, Medicaid always remains. You're always going to continue to receive that Medicaid. Okay? All right, so we talked about an ABLE account. It's a savings account. You're opening it. It's in your name. So you put all this money in here from $50 up to $15,000, maybe a little bit more if you're working. So the law says you can use it for disability-related expenses. So what really is that? So based on that federal law, the definition is very, very broad as to what they see or qualified disability expense. So a disability expense is anything related to the individual's disability health, independence, or quality of life. So really at the end of the day, if you can tie it to your disability, it's a disability-related expense. That's a big deal. So this can be health care, transportation, bus fare, education, employment training, legal fees, a cell phone bill, rent. These are all just examples of what you would be considered a qualified disability expense. Does that make sense? Here's some examples of what the categories that are provided for you: education, housing, transportation, legal fees, funeral and burial. These are all types. At the end of the day, if you have that justification, if you can pull it back to that disability, that's qualified disability expense. And they wrote these expenses to be very broad for this reason, because a disability expense for one family is not going to be the same type of, it's not an across the board thing. Not all disability expenses are going to be the same for each type of family in each situation. So it's very, very broad. Am I losing y'all? Okay. All right, give me some signs of life here. If you receive Medicaid, very, very important. How many receive? There was a few that had SSI. How many? And so with that, you receive Medicaid. How many receive Medicaid? Handful of you. Okay. So if you receive Medicaid, this is important to know. This applies to you. If you don't receive Medicaid, this does not apply to you. What this says is, in the event the individual with disability passes away and you've received Medicaid, that the state has the authority to come ask for the funds paid by Medicaid during the time that the ABLE account was open. Just from the time the ABLE account was open, not the lifetime of the individual. So if you're receiving any funds through Medicaid that they do, it's called a Medicaid payback provision. That's important. It's very, very important. And these are all based on that federal law that was passed that laid out all these requirements. So we want to, to let you guys know that is important to know. But now this is after you've paid for any outstanding disability expenses. You can pay for funeral and burial out of it as well. So essentially you pay that account down, and then whatever's left, the state has the authority to ask for those particular funds paid by Medicaid. It's a lot of information. All of this information is on our website, but we definitely want you to be aware of that. All right. So those are kind of the nuts and bolts of what ABLE is. It's a lot of information, but I'm going to tell you really quickly about Texas ABLE and how to kind of get started with that. Texas ABLE is, again, our savings program here within Texas that's based on that law. It's an online enrollment, texasable.org. And right here on the screen, there is a screenshot of what our website looks like. We put it there because that's the only way you can enroll. So everything that I'm saying here and then some can be found on that website. This is where you will actually go to enroll. So opening the account is a very simple process. It's an online enrollment. Takes probably 20 minutes to do. There actually isn't a cost to enroll in the ABLE account, but when you get ready to make your first contribution, it's a $50 minimum. So you can open that account with $50 and leave it if you want, or you can add more, however you want. It is a self-certification process. So what that means is you don't have to upload anything. You don't have to send any documentation in. You're literally entering in your information or the individual with the disability's information, and then you're going to check a box saying, I am who I am, this disability did occur before the age of 26, I'm a Texas resident, and so forth. And so it's self-certification. And then during that, you get to choose how you want your money saved. Does that make sense? So remember, I talked about in the beginning how there are savings accounts, but they're also investment accounts. How many of you are familiar with 401ks? How many of you have in retirement plan or individual retirement accounts where they're based on the stock market? Any of you? Okay, right. So you've got an idea of what that works. These are similar. So when you open your ABLE account, you get 4 options to choose from as to how you want your money saved. The first option is what's called an FDIC insured bank savings option. So that's going to work more like a bank, like a Chase account, checking or savings. You're going to make a minimal amount of return, okay? The other 3 are, they work more like a retirement account. They're based on the market. They're called managed allocation options. So it's from aggressive to conservative, and these are predetermined for you. So you select how you want them saved, and then you can put all your money. You can say, I want to put 100% of my ABLE accounts in the FDIC insured bank savings option, or you can break it up and say, I want to put 25% in each of those options. So really, your situation, you get to decide how you want them saved. So we definitely want you to, take a look at that, be aware of these options when you're going through that enrollment process. Questions? Lots of information. This is usually where I lose people. Yes, someone has a question here. 2 questions, okay? Your question was, I'm going to let you say that again.
Like if I have a sibling that sold a house that belonged to my father and they gave me money, can I use that towards that ABLE account?
If you have a sibling that...
Yeah, that wants to give me money for the sale of the house, can I use that towards the ABLE account?
Yes. So the money that goes in the contribution, in the ABLE account, this is your money. This money can come from you. It can come from a sibling. It can come from a special needs trust. Anyone can put money in this ABLE account. All contributions combined cannot exceed $15,000 in 1 year. So in answer to your question, yeah, you certainly can.
Saved a certain amount of money in this ABLE account and I pass away, who does that money go to?
Great question. When you open your ABLE account, you'll have to designate a successor. And so the way this works is it's going to work just like any account that you would have, a bank account or a 401k, and it'll go through your normal estate planning process, however you have those set up. And unless you had Medicaid, and then that would apply to you. That make sense? Okay, one more question.
Got one. You were talking about how you can you have the 4 different options to save your money, and you were talking about the latter ones that are kind of like, I guess, like the Mass Mutual ones that are based on the stock market or whatever. Would that, let's say if you put $100 or $200 and you divided some of that up in those kind of the stock market based things, would that make the principal grow?
Very good question. Well, I can't say yes, it would make the principal grow because that would be giving investment advice. But in theory, what he's asking is when you put, say you have $100 and you say, I want to put the money in all in the aggressive option that's predetermined for you, okay? So that is based on the stock market. Those have funds built into that they are risk-based, okay? So as the stock market grows, that fund can grow. That $100 can grow, right? If the stock market does not do so well, you can lose some of that money just as you would with a 401k, right? And other investment options, this is stocks and bonds and investments. So that's important to know. So yes, in answer to your question, absolutely, it could grow. Yes.
Because the banks, that's what they do with your money is they invest it into the market and they try to make the principal grow. And then once it, let's say in theory it grows, can you then transfer, let's say you divide up 25 or 50% into the aggressive, so if it grows, can you transfer some of that money back into your regular banking option part of your account?
So you can transfer the way you have your money saved. So the way basically you can set it up to, as the money comes in, you can set up to the different options as to how you want it saved. So you can say 50% in aggressive or 50% in the bank option. But as far as transferring the funds, so the thing with Texas Able is you can go online at any time and see what money is in your account. You can see how your investments are doing. You can see based on those options that you selected. And then based on that federal law, you can actually change those options up to twice a year. So if you look at it and you go, you know what, I'm not liking what's happening over here in my conservative option, I'm going to just make a little change. That's the beauty of ABLE. You can make that choice yourself and do that online. Did that answer your question? Okay, good. All right. Oh, investments. This always gets lots of questions. All right, let's try you real quick.
I have a couple of questions. One is when you spoke of disability-related expenses, how does that work as far as your income tax return and stuff?
Okay. All right. This leads me to my next. Well, we'll talk about this. Remember in the beginning I talked about these are tax advantaged accounts. What does that really mean? So you put this money in this account. You put $100 or $1,000 in your account, and it has the ability to earn. What am I trying to say? I can't even talk this morning. I haven't had enough coffee. It has a potential to grow based on the stock market. Potential to grow based on the stock market, depending on what you've chosen. As you take the money out to make a withdrawal from the account to pay for those disability-related expenses, if you use it for that purpose, you don't pay taxes on that money that you take out. Okay? So that's the tax advantage plan. That's the way you get the tax. So you have $1,000 in your account and you decide I need to pay for my cell phone bill. You take that money out from that ABLE account, and whatever you take out, you've taken out $50 to pay for that cell phone bill, you don't pay taxes on that $50 that you took out to pay for that bill. Does that make sense? Yes? All right.
My next question is, you mentioned something about you have to be disabled before you're 26 in order to be able to apply for the account. Sound like that's what you said.
That is true. That is exactly what I said. So based on that law we talked about in the beginning, it tells you that set a limitation on that age limit to open up an ABLE account. So the law says your disability has to have occurred before the age of 26 to open an ABLE account, okay? Now, I will tell you there is a piece of legislation out there called the ABLE Age Adjustment Act, and they are looking to increase that age to 46. So that is out there right now and being on the federal level. Did someone have a question over here?
Oh. You were saying the money that's in the account, and you it affects your disability SSDI payment when you, like, at the end of the year. Can't your SSDI be subjected to be refused because you have to report that money that's in that account?
If the monies that are in the ABLE account are not countable income for SSI and SSDI determination. Do you guys have, and again, my disclaimer in the beginning, sorry, I'm getting my coffee. My disclaimer in the beginning said, I'm not a benefits advisor, I'm not a financial advisor, so whatever I'm telling y'all, this is informational, this is just what I know, just a little bit that I know as far as benefits. Do y'all have asset limitations for your SSDI? No. Yeah, exactly. So the SSI is where you're going to have the asset limitations, and that's why that's how it was created for the $2,000. You can't, prior to ABLE, you could only have $2,000 in resources in your own personal checking or savings account, or you would lose benefits.
Money that's in that account, and for whatever reason they have you to give them a copy, itemized statement of the kind of money that you have, that says anything over that $2,000, they're subjected to cancel your check.
That is correct. Prior to this program, that's exactly what they would have done, and that's the whole benefit of the program. She's saying that that they can look into your account and see, oh my God, you're going to have more than $2,000. Now listen, you still can't have, for SSI purposes, you still can't have more than $2,000 in your own personal checking or savings. That's right, because they're looking at, from informational purposes, what I'm telling y'all, they look into your account and they say, oh, you got $2,001, we're done here, right? And they'll cancel that. That's the whole beauty of the ABLE program. The ABLE program is a separate account. Now they look at that because we have to report that information to them. But by law, based on that law, they don't count the money in your ABLE account. You can have over $2,000 in that, and they don't count that, so you can still keep those benefits. Does that make sense? That's the whole reason of ABLE. Okay? I'm going to come back to these questions in just a minute. I'm going to talk really quick. Her question was, if your account is growing over time and it goes above the $15,000 in one taxable year, that's perfect. You can do that. You just can't contribute more than the $15,000 in one taxable year, okay? I'm going to get to questions here in just a minute. Yeah, you can certainly take them out. Take them out as you need. And so what we're seeing with people that are opening ABLE accounts here in Texas, about half of them are opening ABLE accounts. They're putting money in maybe the aggressive option, and they're just leaving it there. They're just leaving it there and let it do its thing over time. And then we're seeing about the other half are opening it and they're using it to pay for those disability expenses, maybe every month or every quarter. Just expenses here and there. Okay, so let's talk about the ways to put money in. So remember, this is your Able account we're talking about now. Okay, so this is an online account. Just kind of it's an electronic account. Consider it like an online banking option, right? So you can put money in. You can write a check into the account if you want and mail it in. You can set up a payroll deduction. So we could set it up to where you had all or a portion of your money go directly into that Able account, and it would stay there for you, based on those investment options that you chose in your enrollment, and you could set it up that way. You can set it up to have automatic recurring contributions. So this means you would say, you know what, every month I want to put in $100, or every quarter I want to put in $500, right? So it's different ways to put money into your Able account. You can also take advantage of, we have what's called a e-gift feature through our website. And so what that means is it allows individuals to give money directly into your Able account without physically handing you the money, which would be counted as income, right? So the way it works is once the account's established, whoever's managing that account goes in, and you can actually send out a email to family or friends, or really anyone. You can send it to Jim and say, hey Jim, I've got my Able account. Would you like to make a contribution to my Able account? And Jim's going to say, yes, I'd love to do that. And so wherever Jim is, I don't know what happened to him, but I'm sure he'll do that. But anyways, so he can put however much he wanted to, as long as it didn't go over that $15,000 a year, okay? It's a way to put money directly into that account without counting as income. Okay, just a moment. I'm going to keep moving forward really quick, and then I'm going to get to y'all's questions, I promise. I'm almost done here. All right, so money goes in online, money comes out online, okay? So you're ready, you put money in, and you decide, you know what, I'm ready to pay for that cell phone bill. So what you do is, you would go into your Able account, log in, and request to have, the $50 moved out from that Able account, put it into your own personal checking and pay for that expense, and keep your receipts, keep your documentation. That's very, very important. Okay, you can pay your bills directly from your Able account, so you can set it up and say, I'm going to pay Sprint directly from that account. You can do that as well. You can request a check. One thing to keep in mind with the Able account is when you take that money out, there are time frames that you need to be aware of. All this information is on our website. As their investment accounts, it's not an instant transfer. It's going to be like a 3-day hold period for electronic withdrawals, and it's 7 days for checks. So it's not an instant, just like a Chase account, right? It's a little bit different. I'm going to come back to you just a second. Qualified withdrawal. So money comes out of the account, you're using it for disability-related expenses. At the end of the day, remember health, independence, quality of life, those categories that we talked about. You are in charge of maintaining all those receipts and those records of what it's used for. Keep a file, right? You can see how the money came out via your online system, and you can make notes on it, but it's important to keep that information. If at the end of the day, you make a distribution from your Able that is not what they consider qualified, okay, you have to pay taxes on that amount that you took out, and you have to pay a 10% penalty, because that is the idea. That as that tax advantage account, you want to make sure you're using it for the purposes that it's intended to be used for: health, independence, quality of life. All right, we're almost there. Housing. SSA makes a big deal about housing, and so we do too. If you're receiving SSI funds, you're wanting to use your Able account to pay for a housing expense, you have to take the money out of your Able account and pay it during the same month. Very important. Otherwise, it's accountable resource, and we do not want that to happen. So we have a whole slide just on this. If y'all have questions about this after, y'all can talk with me. Fees. There are fees, right? Just as you would have an investment account at another banking institution, there are fees. What it boils down to is if you want to have a check issued to that account, it's a $5 fee. And to have an Able account, it's $4 a month. $4 a month, just as you would have a banking account or an investment account. It's $4 a month or $48 a year. right? So that's important to know as their investment accounts. So with that, you get 2 electronic withdrawals from the account a month. So that's kind of deciding, hey, am I gonna be using this a lot, or am I gonna be using it a little bit? What am I gonna use it for? A little bit of forward thinking as to what you're going to use it for, right? In transferring that money out, putting it into your own personal checking, and then paying for that expense that way. Really quick. Kind of this next slide, or really my final slide, kind of circles back to the website. This is where you're going to go again, as I mentioned, to get started in the program. There's an eligibility quiz. There's frequently asked questions. And then there's what we have on there called our program disclosure statement. And it's all the rules and regs on the way we built the ABLE program. So we ask you to definitely take a look at that. And this is where you're going to enroll as well, as I mentioned. All right, and then also on our website, we have some important links. There's a helpful link section on our website, and I include these because I think it's important for you guys to know in creating the ABLE program, you know, as we're a state agency, we work with other federal agencies, Social Security Administration, we work with Texas Medicaid, IRS, and so they all have guidelines on how their employees view ABLE accounts. And so these links up here on this slide are their guides on how their employees treat ABLE accounts. So basically, you can go in here and you can see, hey, you know what, Anna Mallette, she really was talking about ABLE, and it's a real thing, and this is how the IRS treats those ABLE accounts. This is how the Social Security Administration treats the ABLE accounts. And so you can go and read that information and learn a little bit more. And then that last link is the Texas State Securities Board. They have a really good website just for sort of investing 101, learning a little bit about how to get started with investing, what it means, just to kind of give you just an overview of that. So we have that on our website as well. And our customer service team, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is a lot of information. I get it, and it's early, and y'all have not had enough coffee. I get it. So we do have a customer service team. It's a 1-800 number. All they do is talk about Texas ABLE. So if there's anything that I'm missing, I'll happy to talk to you that in just a second. Anything that I'm missing, we can certainly you can certainly call them. You can certainly email them, and then we also have an outreach component that would be myself, and then we have another person on our outreach team, Vanessa, and so all we do is go around and talk to folks about Texas ABLE. So and the website is texasable.org, and then that 1-800 number is 844-489-2253, and they're Monday through Friday. All they do is talk about Texas ABLE. I'm going to come back to a couple questions here.
Well, what I think is when somebody start asking you a lot of questions about something that you presented, they might be interested. And my question is, just like on the IRA or your retirement account, if you take an early withdrawal out, they penalize you. I heard you mention something about it's $4 to join and maybe $5 to take some money out. Are there like a certain amount of it? What I'm trying to say. Where you take the money out, is there a certain amount?
Certain amount of, is there a withdrawal amount? Is that what you're trying to ask? How much can you take out at one time? Is that what you're asking? No. How many? So with that $4 a month fee, if you want to do it, take it out electronically, meaning you want to go into that ABLE account, enter it in, and have it transferred out to your personal checking 2 times a month. You can do that. Anything over that is $1. That's important. So, and again, I was saying, it kind of, it makes you think, hey, what am I going to use my ABLE account for? Am I going to use it as an investment tool long term? Am I going to use it to pay for disability expenses a lot? Or do I know I'm going to be making a modification to my home coming up, or using it to pay for bus fare, whatever? Kind of figuring out how you're going to use it and be able to know how much to transfer out, okay? So yeah, there are fees involved, and that was to answer your question. Okay. Did you have a question here? Hold on just a second.
Yes. So okay. So you save your receipts for the year for taking out expenses for health, quality, independence. So what if something for some reason doesn't qualify? I mean, you needed it for those 3 things, but it doesn't qualify. Is there an appeal process? And if so, how do you do that to avoid the 10% penalty in tax?
The appeal I don't know anything about an appeal process, but I will tell you, as I mentioned, and he mentioned, health independence, quality of life, if you pull the money out, and at the end of the day, remember, these are tax advantage accounts. This is between you and the IRS. As their tax advantage account. So that's why we say you keep those receipts, and you have to be able to say, hey, you know what, on January 29th, I made a distribution from my ABLE account, and I used it to pay for my cell phone bill. Here's my receipt. Here, IRS. Okay, that's a disability-related expense. We're good. Now, if at the end of the day, the IRS determines that it was not qualified, I'm going to give you an example. You know, some people say, oh, well, what about gambling? Well, I mean, could it be a quality of life? I don't know. That's between you and the IRS, right? Here's an example. The money in an ABLE account has to be used for the sole benefit for that individual with the disability, okay? So, quality of life. You are going on a vacation, because that's quality of life expense, and you're going down to Port A, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to pay for myself, and I'm going to pay for my cousins to go on this Port A trip, and here's all my receipts. At the end of the day, the IRS, the law says the money in an ABLE account has to be used for the sole benefit of the individual with the disability. So you've got all those receipts, but the IRS at the end of the day is going to say, yeah, no, the cousins, that's not for the benefit of the individual with the disability. So you're going to have to pay taxes on that money you took out for those cousins, and you have to pay a 10% penalty on that particular distribution. So you want to make sure you're using it for the purpose that it's intended for. Hold on just a moment. You've got lots of questions here. Where's Jim? How much time do we have? I want to make sure I'm not going over. 10 minutes. Okay. All right.
Hello. Yeah. Is it okay, like, if you get your receipts emailed, can you email that to the IRS instead of having all that paperwork around?
However you want to maintain that documentation is up to you. However best you want to store it, if you want to do it electronically, you can certainly keep it that way. That's certainly an option for you. Did we have a question over on this? Okay, you've been waiting. Let's see, hold on just a...
Okay. So my quick question has to do with if you're not a Social Security recipient and but maybe you do currently contribute to a retirement plan, is there a way to compare if it would be more beneficial to invest in that so you could get off of the retirement plan you're currently contributing to?
A way to compare, that would be an investment advice, right? And so remember my disclaimer in the beginning? The question, if I'm understanding your correct question, is basically you're saying to be able to invest in an ABLE account, use that the able to work portion, meaning go off of your retirement plan, put more money in your ABLE account, and instead of just using your 401k or your investment account. Does that make sense? At the end of the day, that is an investment question, advice that you would need to consult with someone else. Okay.
It's not advice. It's whether or not you'd be able to compare if it would be a better option. And so before you give up your is there a way to compare it? Not is it a better plan, but is there a way to see how much you would make from the other?
Well, okay. The investment information, all those 4 options that I talked to you about, all of that information as far as the way they've been performing, their performance information on each one of those options is on our website. So you could go there right now and you could say, let me see how the investment option is doing for aggressive. How has that been performing? And I'll tell you, they've actually been performing very well, because guess what? The stock market is doing very well right now. So that information is on our website.
How you doing? We have some questions over here in Taylor.
Okay.
Cool. What I'd like to do is we have Craig has a question. He's been waiting a bit. If you could ask his first, Craig.
Yeah, me and my wife own the car, and have a note, would that can be considered as transportation with the car note?
A car note?
Yeah, like, you know, the car payment each month?
If I'm understanding the question is, can you use an ABLE account to pay for a car payment,
Yes.
a monthly car payment?
Yes.
If it's your car and you're using it, yes, absolutely. It's for the sole benefit of you and your disability to get you from point A to point B. That's certainly a justification you could make to the IRS and use it for that purpose. Yes. That answer your question?
We have, yeah, Greg, you good, buddy?
Yeah.
All right, and then we have Matt has a question as well.
Okay. My question was, if you do a payroll deduction into the ABLE account, is it taken pre-tax or post-tax, after taxes?
These are post-tax contributions. These are post-tax contributions. So you've already paid, being able to take it out of your payroll, they're post-tax. So the money that goes in, you've already paid taxes on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you would be paying tax twice if what you used the money for wasn't eligible for the program. You would get taxed.
That is correct. That is correct. You would have to pay taxes on that distribution if it was not found to be used for a disability-related expense.
Okay.
Any more questions from Taylor?
Oh, we have one more.
Yeah, I hear one. Say you own IRS, and how would you go about doing that if you want to make payments monthly payment?
I did not understand that question. Can you repeat it, please?
He asked if you owe the IRS, how you would go about making monthly payments. Do you want to go through it?
You're talking about coming in.
Could you pay that through your income?
If you owe the IRS, could you pay that from an ABLE account?
Yes.
I have never had that question. I do.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. Why not? I don't have. I do not have an answer as to if you could justify that your payment to the IRS was for your disability, then certainly you could use it for that purpose.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I figure you stay in bed. You office.
All right, I think that's all our questions here in Taylor.
Thank you.
Okay, is that all we have from Taylor?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I know there's still a few of you that have questions. I'm happy to talk with you after about that. Anybody, just general overview, something we missed? Okay. It will be taxed if you end up using it for a non-qualified. If you choose that option to set it up to have the contributions into your ABLE account, it's going to be coming directly in. We're not taxing anything. It's coming directly from your paycheck account into your ABLE account. It's directly in. Correct. You've already paid taxes on that. You're just making that contribution into your ABLE account. It would be taxed again if you take that money out of your ABLE account and use it for a non-qualified withdrawal. Yeah.
Well, I mean, by the time you're 18, regardless of what disability, I mean that's one of the criteria was on the age requirement. Yes, you have to have been disabled before the age of 26. Correct. No matter. Yes. You have a question. Go ahead.
Children and I take money out for their expenses.
Her question was, if I have children and I take money out for their expenses and they're underage, that would be used for their benefit, so that wouldn't be qualified for. No, that's going to have, it would have to be, you would have to justify it as for your benefit, an expense used for your benefit. Yeah, strictly pertaining to the disability. Okay, guys, I've run out of time. I'm going to be here for just a little bit longer, Vanessa and I, so if y'all have questions, we're happy to entertain and answer any of those questions. Thank you again for having me here. I appreciate it.